start with the next chapter of the Ben Simmons saga out of Philly. Adrian Wojnarowski joins us in studio. And Woj, what can you tell us about Ben Simmons and the latest with him in Philadelphia as training camp starts next week?
Cassidy, not only does Ben Simmons plan to not report to training camp, he intends to never play for the Sixers again, to not wear an NBA uniform until he's traded. And so that sets up now a standoff between the 76ers, who want him in camp, who want to start the season, improve his trade value, and Ben Simmons, who is essentially telling the Sixers now, I am willing to sit, perhaps even out the season, until you find a deal for me.
So this is a game of chicken, is what
Absolutely.
It really is. So let's go on from both sides. What are the options that the Sixers have right now?
Well, listen, you don't miss Ben Simmons until certainly the season starts and you start playing games. This was a team that was the #1 seed in the East last year that has championship aspirations. They are a far diminished team without Ben Simmons. He knows that. And this is a bet by Ben Simmons that this is an organization with a win-now mentality, Joel Embiid in his prime, that just is not going to allow this gaping hole in the organization to cost them a season, and that they'll find a trade for him.
Well, Simmons' trade value was at an all-time low heading into the summer. And when we think about him holding out at training camp, what are the repercussions that Ben is facing if he doesn't show and is not traded?
Not getting paid. And that's what makes this so unique, Cass. 4 years, $147 million left on his contract. For a player who's owed that kind of money to not show for training camp. And so it'll start with fines, missing media day. Missing the first practice, second practice. October 1st, he has a significant portion of his salary. And if he's not playing, if he hasn't reported, the Sixers don't have to pay him and almost assuredly won't. And so the Sixers are betting that this is a player ultimately who is not going to be willing to cost himself this much money. And again, they wanted to see if they could get that trade value up this season. Ben Simmons wanted the trade at the end of last season. Philadelphia talked about a James Harden deal back at the deadline, but when they couldn't get James Harden, they didn't see anything else really out there this summer that was available to them that made sense for a player at 25 years old of Ben Simmons' magnitude.
Other than Doc Rivers and the rest of the team having to answer countless questions, what leverage does Ben Simmons have in this situation?
If you're Ben Simmons, you're hoping that the Sixers get off to a bad start, and that there's a clamor to just get a deal done. And you're also looking at other teams in the league who maybe don't start out as well as they hoped, and then they become under pressure to find a deal to improve themselves. And maybe it's teams who've made offers, who improve their offers, or more teams get involved. And there have been a lot of conversations about not just two-way deals, but three-way deals, four-way deals to get all the assets moving. It is hard to trade a player of Ben Simmons' magnitude for a team like Philly when you're a championship contender. Usually great players like this, they're being traded from teams who are maybe headed toward a rebuild, and they want draft picks and young assets. Philly wants an all-star level player back and then some assets. That's hard to do.
Daryl Morey has proven he's not willing to settle, but we will see as this continues to linger on. Obviously, a situation we will continue to closely monitor with Philly.